Well, Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Tasha and Russell, they both love reading books. Well, what do you do when you share such love?
Welcome to
Well,
the
you start a
110th
club, you
episode of the
start a club, an
ABC Pod, the
adult book
Adult
club,
Book
an
Club with
adult
Taja
book
and Russell. I am
club,
Russell. She
and
is
a
Taja.
podcast.
Hey, hey, and welcome back, everybody, to the podcast where we drink and we read things. And on this episode, we read The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton. But before we get to that, it has been so many weeks as this recording's been postponed numerous times. Taja, what have you been doing Christmas and beyond at this point?
Yeah, so for Christmas, or I guess on Christmas, we went to New York City and we saw Hamilton, and it was amazing, obviously. We had like spectacular seats. They were at the front row of the mezzanine, so it was like nobody in front of us. We were like on the edge, so we kind of had a skewed view of the stage, but we were still really close. And what was really neat is the ushers brought over like two just regular chairs and put them up against the wall, like against the mezzanine, I guess. Um, and the people sitting there were the parents of the woman who was playing Angelica,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
was so awesome. And the woman was so nice. She was mostly talking to the father-daughter duo that was sitting next to us, but I was eavesdropping and kind of part of the combo. And he was like, if you want to know anything about the theater, about like the show, and she was just like telling us secrets about, well, not really secrets, but where we were on the mezzanine, because it's like the upper one. You can see all the lights and stuff, but then on there, there's a video of the orchestra conductor so that the people on stage can like be in tune with like how he's conducting things. Um, I mean, you know it, so it's a great play, but I we got to the point where we're like, how many times per year can we go see this? It was so good. And then we obviously ate like a bunch of awesome food, and there was after the day after Christmas, there was a snowstorm in New York. And Central Park got the most snow it's gotten since 2022, and it was a whole like 4 inches.
Oh, that's funny because they were like projecting, some people were projecting like 10 inches to hit New York City. So I was wondering how you guys were going to do there. But yeah,
It was not so bad. I mean,
yeah,
like, it was nothing like what we get at home,
yeah.
obviously, but it is, of course, a different creature when there's so many buildings and streets and people. And so walking around was slushy. We did go to Central Park and it was cool because, like, people were sledding and it was just very, like, festive, felt very Christmassy.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we went to the Met for like a date night at the Met.
Yeah.
They had some piano player playing music, and we walked around and looked at some art and rode the subway back to our hotel. And it was so fucking crowded. Like standing room only. We were going, I don't know, like 6 or 7 stops, but it was like from 77th down to like 28th. So a pretty good distance.
Yeah.
Um, and at one point, Barry got coughed on by a small child on a leash. And the mom was like, "Oh, cough on mommy." And it's like, what are we doing here? Um, so needless to say, I got sick when we were back home. So I was like fine. New Year's Eve, we stayed up till the ball dropped and then we went straight to bed. And then the next day I woke up and had like no nostrils to breathe out of.
Nice.
But luckily it was just like a congestion situation. So that cleared up. But then yeah, then I got a UTI. So that was fun. This year's starting out great.
Yeah.
Uh, Not to mention, while we were gone for Christmas, we left the Honda at the dealership because there'd been an issue with the um not fuel injector. I guess there's like some cylinder was misfiring. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I told you about
Yeah.
that.
The go-go wasn't working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they called it like if you tried to pass somebody, the car would just go into what they call limp home mode,
Yeah.
where it just will not go. So anyway, we brought the car to them and left it because they didn't have an appointment until like, I don't know, probably February or something like that, you know. I mean, it might not have been that far out, but
Yeah.
far enough that we didn't want to deal with it. And so we left it with them and they fit it in when they could and they had to replace that. And then yesterday morning when Barry was leaving for work, he got stuck in the snow in our yard and hit a tree and ripped the mirror, broke the side view mirror. Our neighbor was like trying to help him get out. He had to call a tow from AAA and pull himself out. Well, that guy pulled him out. So far, I feel like we've bingoed quite a few things
Yeah.
for the
Was
whole
it
year.
was it just icy yesterday or?
So we have quite a bit of snow and it was like this weird temperature where like when you hit like a bit of fluff and it kind of like sucks you in.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. So you know how our driveway has like that little bit of incline at the top?
Yeah.
And then the side yard like has an incline, but it's like a secret hidden one that you can't tell until you're fucking in it. We've had a friend get a car stuck in the yard too. Um, but it like he'd been at the top of the driveway and a neighbor was coming down, so he didn't pull out and he
Yeah.
waited and then he like didn't have enough and then he just kind of like slid.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, and I'll send you the pictures later, but yeah, I could see it on our blink from the front door, like the car just in the lawn. Um, so yeah, that was a fun thing.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of covers everything.
Yeah. Like you said, a lot of bingo marked off on that one.
Yeah.
So pretty busy. Ours hasn't been that exciting. We had like 37 Christmases that we finally got through with all of
Oh,
Amanda's family. Our niece, I think she just turned 14, brought her boyfriend, her first boyfriend to Christmas.
14.
Yeah, it's you know how it is at that point. So it was so funny though, because she wanted nothing to do with him. Like I think she like likes him, but like doesn't really care for all that other boyfriend girlfriend stuff. So like she was just doing her own thing and he was just like there.
In like a
And
corner.
so I tried to like he was doing great with the little kids, which I
Yeah,
think that's what you gravitate towards when you don't know anybody else. Like little kids love
sure.
you.
I mean, or if there's pets, that would be me.
Yes, yeah. So I tried to talk to him a couple times and like he just nothing. I was like, "Hey, I heard you do this. Do you like that?" He's like, "I don't know." Like, okay, what about I heard you like this. What about that? He's like, "Oh, I don't know." And like I think he was just so overwhelmed by the amount
Yeah,
of
I
people he
mean
didn't
that is
know.
a lot.
Yeah, so felt bad for that kid. But it was the highlight of that Christmas. It's just like, hey, stop bringing people over. Uh, our New Year's Eve, Amanda got hooked into watching The Interview with a Vampire, which the TV show, because it's on
There's a
Netflix now.
show?
So, what's that?
I didn't know there was a TV show.
There is a TV show, yeah, and the guy who played Grey Worm is Louis. So
Ooh,
she was really into that. Yeah, he looks a little
he's
different
very
with his hair and all
attractive.
that. Yes, and Lestat is too, but I don't know
Nice.
that actor.
Okay.
They don't wear shirts a lot too, so
Awesome.
not quite heated rivalry, but it's close. Uh,
Okay.
it was also on AMC, so originally a lot, Anyway, so she wanted to watch that. So I was like, well, the Bruins are on late, so I'll just watch that on my phone. And again, long story long, I basically fell asleep in like the third period right around like 11:15. And then I woke up randomly, uh, and there was 2 minutes to midnight. And I've
Uh,
never struggled so hard to stay
stay
awake. And then
awake.
same day, I was like, yay, I'm going to.
That's so funny. And she was still awake.
Oh yeah, she was still awake. So I mean, she was on school break, so she was going to bed at like 2:33 in the morning, like a psycho.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
our lives are so different.
Yeah.
And then basically the only other thing I've been doing is skating. So my brother is actually taking care of his pond this year, which is awesome because it's about 1.5 times the size of our rink here, maybe a little bit
Wow.
bigger. So a lot more space to move around. And also because he lives in a compound, there's usually more people there.
Yeah.
So, like New Year's Eve, I went up and skated with them for like 3 hours. And then last weekend, Roy and Sully came up and we skated here first, and then we went over and played 4-on-4 there, which was nice because that's not something we normally get to do.
Yeah.
The most we've ever had here is 4 people, so it's only ever been 2-on-2. So it was nice to be able to get that practice in because we have the tournament coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Um, Aside from that, Sully and Soonish, for those of you listening and love the scraps, they have another acoustic show on the 18th of January. It's a Sunday at a place in Dover called Auspicious Brew. They brew hard kombucha because
Cool.
apparently that's a thing, I'm
That
sure,
is a
probably in
thing.
Burlington and also the east coast of New Hampshire. You
Yeah.
don't find hard kombucha in Keene, I can tell you that much.
Really?
No, what is this, dirt water? Give me a beer.
No, but I'm a little surprised because like the college kid scene seems like they
Yeah,
might
maybe. No,
be into
probably in
that.
Brattleboro. I bet they probably have
Yeah,
it
okay, sure,
there.
sure, sure, sure.
But yeah, so it's Auspicious Brewing. I think it's 4 to 6 on January 18th. So you can check that out. We also got an email from the booker at the place we usually play, the press room. And they've
Yeah.
got some ideas for us for this coming year for some shows we can open for and stuff. So
Hey.
the band keeps chugging along. And yeah, I'm sure maybe there's other things, but all you need to know right now is skating. That's all that matters. Skating and
That's
hockey.
all that's happening right now.
And thankfully, no more Christmases. So, on that
And
note,
the weather has been so good for
the weather's been great. Well, so for us
I,
here, like we went through probably a stretch of 7 days where we woke up to an inch of snow, which I'll take over like a foot of
a
snow.
huge storm. Yeah.
But it's just a pain in the ass. Like every day,
You
because
gotta
we
do
obviously
the
have to plow. We can't leave that on the driveway; it'll become a mess.
yeah.
And then cleaning off the ice rink. It's just every day. I'm like, snow. So yeah, we're
Mhm.
supposed to get some rain this weekend. I guess it's not going to be quite cold enough. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But good news is the place where the tournament plays in Fairleigh, Vermont. They have opened their ice, so their lake is fully
Mm.
frozen. So that's good news.
Nice.
Because two
Yeah.
years ago it
It
was
was not yet.
not.
Yeah.
So all things are pointing up there. So on that note, thanks for sticking around for the long update. But hey, it's been a while, and there was a lot of holidays. And I
Yeah.
did see your Instagram post story about when you guys were at Hamilton. I was very jealous of your seats.
Yeah,
Looks
they
like
were so good.
a lot of fun. So this is your reminder to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Adult Book Club 21. That is all one word, Adult Book Club, then the number 21 for the year we started, not because we're into adult things, no matter what people want to say. I am the least adult, immature child you've ever met in your life, except when it comes to adulting. Anyway,
Hmm.
on that note, we move back to the book, which once again was the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton. Walton was a journalist who decided to change careers and try writing around the time she turned 40. Writing novels, obviously. She was writing before as a journalist. The final
Mhm.
revival of Opal and Nev is her debut novel and was published in 2021. It received a lot of acclaim and won 4 awards. As Tasha pointed out last episode, it was on Barack Obama's favorite books of 2021, including other awards. After publishing the novel, she shifted her focus to launching a startup called Ursa, which aims to celebrate and promote underrepresented authors of short fiction. They also have a podcast, not to promote somebody else, but it's Ursa, URSA, if you wanted to, I don't know, if this interests you, promote those people. Her second novel has been announced for an expected release date of summer 2027, and that is literally all the information I could find about it. So,
Nice.
no idea
Wow,
about
that's fun.
title, no idea
Cool.
about what it's about, but yeah,
Hopefully she has an idea.
I would hope so at this point. But yeah, just the fact that it's still so far out, I'm sure it's you know, keeping her busy with other stuff. So on that note, Taja, if you want to read us the jacket, we will jump into our story.
All right. Opal is a fiercely independent young woman pushing against the grain in her style and attitude, a black punk artist ahead of her time. When the British aspiring singer-songwriter Neville Charles discovers her at a bar's amateur night, she takes him up on his offer to make rock music together for the fledgling Rivington Records. In early 70s New York City, a rival band signed to her label brandishes a Confederate flag at a promotional concert. Opal's bold protest and the violence that ensues set off a chain of events that will not only change the lives of those she loves, but also be a deadly reminder that repercussions are always harsher for Black women who dare to speak their truth. Decades later, music journalist Sunny Shelton seizes the chance to curate an oral history about her idols. Sunny thought she knew most of the stories leading up to the cult duo's most politicized chapter, but as her interviews dig deeper, a nasty new allegation from an unexpected source threatens to blow up everything.
Nice. So this was written similarly to Daisy Jones and the Six. So it was that oral history kind of interview based thing, although a little bit different. So before we dig into our characters, I want to talk about that. What did you think of the setup, and how did you think Walton did with the voices of her characters?
I mean, the whole time I was comparing it to Daisy Jones. Like we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but I think I liked um parts of this one maybe a little bit better than Daisy Jones in terms of like the presentation and formatting and stuff. But there were some things that I didn't really love about it. In terms of like realism and for what she was going for, I think it really did hold up. I think she did a good job creating the voices of the characters, but then also presenting them in a way that made it really seem realistic that it was somebody being interviewed. It was never a doubt that there was, that line wasn't crossed, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that the characters came through really pretty richly.
Yeah, I think what stood out the most to me was how dynamic she made each character's voice and how well she stuck to it. Like the fact that Opal was this black woman punk kind of not religious upbringing in Detroit, and then you have Neville, who is this like nerdy white Englishman who had his own struggles growing up, but came from a little bit of wealth. But then just even the secondaries, like Virgil, Opal's friend, and
Mhm.
how just
Love Virgil.
flamboyant and lively he was, and even down to like our tertiary characters, like I forget his name now, but the guy who owned Rivington Records and how
Yeah.
his
You,
bi
Howie? Howie?
Howie, yeah, I think so. His bias came out and everything, and like
Mhm.
how he spoke, and then obviously like with the Bond brothers later on, and their very unsubtle racism. So I thought that was the biggest takeaway was how well, like you said, like at times you would think it was real because of
Yeah.
how they stuck to their characters so well. And how they were portrayed throughout. To think that one person came up with all these voices, I thought was really impressive because yeah, I know that you do that in a story too, but she's literally kind of giving them all point of view here, which is a lot different than normal. So she has to
Yeah.
get to that character.
I also think it's really interesting how, like you said, it makes it feel really real, like that, like everyone's real because she does pull in a lot of stuff that's like actually real to our reality.
Yeah.
Like, I think this what was supposed to be taking place in like 2016 or something.
Yes.
Um, so like she talks about with the Bond brothers how there's like a red MAGA hat and like there's stuff that's very on the nose with our actual reality. So it was kind of interesting to be like, are these real people? Because
Yeah.
then sometime later she has some little snippets of interviews or things from articles of some people who are she's made up and people who are real
Yeah.
like actors and stuff. And I thought that was a really interesting way to do it because it kind of bleeds into our reality enough to be like, wait a minute, have I just never heard of Opal and Nev?
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I wondered how those people felt because like Tom Morello
Yeah,
was one of them, and it's like,
I
okay.
know.
I mean, I know he's very outspoken. Is this maybe something he said that you're just using? Like, or like,
Right.
did you reach out to these
Did
people?
they get permission?
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like you have to because you're like really putting, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, that was that was interesting to me. The other thing I really liked in comparison to Daisy Jones and the Six was there was never a question about who our narrator
yes,
was, our storyteller, and we'll get into her in the next question. But just the fact that like that was one of my biggest things I took away points from what on Daisy Jones was how they had that big reveal they had to have that was like totally broken from the book. And I remember it was like, wait, was that me? Were you talking about me? And it's like, I didn't. I remember just rolling my eyes for 7 straight days after that happened. So
yeah,
I appreciated the straightforwardness of who Sarah Lena was, or her pen name as Sonny
yes,
Shelton.
yeah,
I liked that that was out in the open from the beginning. And obviously, as we learned from her first interaction with Opal, the only reason Opal is going through with this is because of who she is. So
right,
I liked that all that was out in the open and it wasn't something that she was trying to play coy with.
right, right. And I think for both books, that information sort of validates things. So it seemed a little silly that with Daisy Jones, like I don't know, it just seems like not a trope, but it just seems like a gimmick
Yeah, it did.
to hold on to that information.
Yeah.
Whereas like with this one, it like it helps the story so much more to start from the face with that.
Yeah, for sure. And it gives her credibility, like you were just
Yeah.
saying. So the other thing she used here was the editor notes that she kind of
Mhm.
interspersed between the interviews and to kind of help with our story aspect of it, to kind of give you that background that she wasn't getting in the interviews or whatever. Like I guess it's the kind of thing that if this really happened, you would know what they were talking about. So I feel
Right.
like she used that to be like, remember when this happened, right? Everyone
Yeah.
remembers.
Yeah.
But as we touched on before, I do feel like it became kind of a crutch for her where they became more prevalent, like especially in the like Act 3, because
And like longer.
yeah, because like her interviews have kind of run up, and like now we're not to spoilers before spoilers, but we're working up to like the festival and kind of our final piece there. And it's like, okay, now I have to just talk to you about what's happening in the present day because all that is past. And
Right.
I don't know how else you would do it, obviously, but it just felt, I don't know, that felt a little clunky to me, and that was something I took away as well.
I agree because I feel like the that especially the one at the end that was really long and like how they did sort of get lengthier.
Yeah.
It felt like it was just muddying the waters of like, is this supposed to still be the book that's getting published and we're reading it, or is this supposed to be a book outside, a book looking in at the book?
Yeah. I mean, and also it turned Sunny into one of the characters. Like it was always supposed to be
Yeah.
about Opal and Nev, but then it became about, well, Sarah Lena as
More
well. So
heavily, yeah. Yeah.
there was that. So let's talk about her. So our storyteller, before we get to our titular characters, was Sarah Lena, who professionally goes by S. Sunny Shelton. What did you think of her as our driving force behind this story?
I mean, I think obviously it made sense that she was like intrigued. Um, and I know that she at one point, maybe even later in the book, like goes into more detail about why Opal is such um a
Role model.
favorite of hers, yeah,
Yeah,
role model. And all that makes sense, but especially too because like growing up, her mom kind of didn't give a lot of information on purpose. And so it's kind of that um taboo thing that you want to do because you're not supposed to do. And I think her kind of explaining how she sussed out that on her own was nice.
mm,
Um, I think that in terms of the her voice, I guess, sometimes it felt like she was kind of muddying the waters between the personal and the professional, and like hard not to do,
yeah,
obviously. Um, but I feel like sometimes it was like one was the focus and then the other was, I don't know, it just didn't seem to be consistent
yeah.
for her. And maybe that's just like the nature of the beast, like she's working that out on her own, or like certain things she hears or learns change the perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how we see her growth, like you were saying, because Opal was a role model for her starting at 14 when she like was able to discover the music and learn more about her father than Opal that way. Because obviously, yeah, when you're when your father is killed in a riot that was kind of provoked by his mistress while your mother was about to pop with you, that's not
You're
something
probably not
she's
going to
going to
talk
want to
about
talk
it
about.
much.
Yeah. So I can understand her mother's side of this as well.
Yeah.
I liked as we saw that her kind of lose that luster on both Opal and Nev and see them more as people as
People,
she
flawed individuals.
yeah began dealing with them more and was able to kind of push aside that teenage um I don't know, fantasy world where you just think they're on a pedestal, right?
Yeah, like the whole never meet your heroes thing.
Yeah, unless it's Simon Pegg, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, there are some exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. I think that we needed her and her connection. Like I said before, like Opal said she
Mhm.
wouldn't have done it if it wasn't Sunny doing the story. But without that, I think the book would have just felt a little flat if it was just some historian doing it about it. Like you needed that personal connection.
Yeah.
And as we work towards that story, so yeah, I will say as you put on towards the end, it definitely got blurred with again, she almost became a character in her own story, which I know she is, but she isn't supposed to be, and like
And
how that was working.
You talking about that now too just reminded me of there's one, it must have been an editor's note where she is going into pretty extreme detail about like a um editorial meeting where like her and her team are like talking about the picture from the riot, um or from the whatever the
Yeah, it's
concert.
from Riot. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that really pulled me out. Like, why are you including that in the book about like if it's, I don't know, it
Because
just felt a little like what you were saying, where it's like, are we are we in the book? Are
yeah,
we
it was very offhandedly about Opal and Nev, right? Because the picture is of them from the night
Yeah,
of
but
that riot. It's like
that's
what
not
they gained their notoriety from. But yeah, we don't need to have this whole thing. It was because we had to insert her part into it so that she could, we could continue her career talk later on.
right.
Again, like that is something that took away a little bit from me because I do feel like the story shifted from Opal and Nev to her,
Her.
and like that made it. I'm gonna keep using your word, muddied towards the end. And like as you were saying, how do you toe the line between professional and personal? And like while you needed it, it was still like I don't know. It'd be like me wanting to write a story about Warren Zevon and then in the middle being like, let me tell you about the first time I listened to or actually a great one if you've read Into the Wild. In the middle of Into the Wild, the author tells a story about how he almost died on a mountain once, and it's like a two chapters or something like that in the middle of like a 150-page book. So it's like, oh, I need some fluff here. Let me tell you
Like
about my
this is
misadventure.
also me.
Yeah, I'm the same as Christmas McAllister, whatever his name was, but I lived. Cool guy. Thanks for the story.
Clearly,
Yeah.
because you're writing the book.
So it was interesting. We will, I'm sure, get more into that as we move into spoilers, but let's move on to our two characters, and we do it by order of importance and also how they're written on the book. So, Opal and Nev are the focus of this oral history, starting with Opal. What did you think of her as we got to know her in part one?
I mean, I think she was a very like believable icon.
Yeah,
Like I could absolutely see from this story what kind of impact a character like that would have, or a person like that would have on the narrative, basically, of us. Um, I think if she were real, which would be kind of cool, she'd be like a total badass. Like I would definitely I don't want to say she'd have a following, but you know what I mean? Like I could totally see how later on when she had all those snippets of like other people talking about her influence,
yeah,
basically. Um, I could absolutely all of those were believable. It helped that some of them were like real people, and I was like, I could totally see that person saying that about
yeah,
this fake person. Um, I love that she seemed so like comfortable with herself. And yeah, in the interviews that we got at the beginning of things, like when she's talking about having first been found and like her life before all of that, she isn't self-aggrandizing, but she also isn't like self-deprecating in like a tiny violin way.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know, she just seemed so realistic. That she's not like perfect at everything and isn't like the most amazing, she has flaws. Um, and she kind of figures her own self out. Um, and isn't I say she has self-confidence, but she admits when she's not confident,
yeah.
and I very much appreciate that.
She knew what persona she had to project. Like
Yeah.
she even mentions how her sister was the better singer, but
Yep.
she would clench up and close her eyes, and
She's the
she would be able to belt it, but she had no presence.
right.
So Opal would be the one to bring the stage presence, and her singing was good enough when you added it to her strange dance moves and her fashion sense and everything else that she was bringing. Like her whole package was more than her sister's because she was something so out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
I liked how we get that introduction of the kind of tour that Nev and Howie do to try to find this singer for him, and all the ones that Howie likes and Nev doesn't, and then how much Opal stands out just because of kind of those eccentricities. Um,
Yeah.
like really highlights who she is and how she's not going to bend to other people. I think, as you were saying, to make her more believable, I really appreciated that she was like every other stupid kid who gets so focused on their own life, their own messaging, their own like I need to do this, or like my thought process is I need to make this protest, whatever. But she
Yeah.
doesn't think about the ramifications. She doesn't think about what other people are going to do or what could happen to others because of that. And we see it a few times, obviously the big one being the riot.
Yeah.
But I liked that she had that naivete, even though she
Yeah.
had lived a tough life, and even though she had gone, she grew up in Detroit, but they had family in the South, and she had seen how different the life was down there. So she
Mhm.
like knew about the
She had
segregation,
experience with that
yeah,
stuff.
and like
Yeah.
understood that, but at the same time, like it still didn't process the whole way, which as a kid, that's what happens.
Well, that and like I think she just personality wise has a tendency to be a little bit reactionary, you
Yeah.
know? Like this is the thing I'm going to do because I want to do it. Um, yeah, that definitely the naivete for sure.
I also liked how she didn't hide from like her shortcomings. Like as the
Yeah.
story progresses, as she gets more comfortable with Sonny, and she's able to talk about it. But right off the bat, talking about the affair
Hmm.
with Jimmy
Jimmy.
Curtis, she like, yeah, she's like, I loved him. I was in love with him. I didn't care he had a wife. Like when he was with
Yeah.
me, he was with me. And like again, that kind of I don't know, young out in 70s maybe a different time too, but that young outlook on the world where it's just kind of about me still and like this is my shot and I'm gonna take it. And also, as she points out, he was the only other black person in their little band of session players and
Right.
with Nev. So she looked to him to kind of fill in those gaps. Like that the story of her going into the recording booth for the first time and how she tried to portray so much confidence, but everyone like they had little
Same.
excerpts from other parts of the band that was like, oh, we could tell she had no fucking clue.
Yeah.
And Bob Hayes, who's the producer, like gave her a chance to like fill in slowly by doing like Nev's parts first and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I again like all those things just there were times when you're reading this that you thought they were real people for sure because of how
Oh,
they presented.
100%. I also thought it was interesting how, like you said, she fully admits that she knew that kind of what she was doing, like knew that he had a wife, like her and Sonny's mom like had a relationship. Like it's not like they didn't know each other. And then at one point she says to Sonny that she was like glad when she found out that um Sonny was going to be born because she was like that believes me of like responsibility, like he's not going to leave me, the wife for me. Like
Yeah.
it was strange because she says she loves him, but then she's also like I don't actually want a relationship.
Yeah. She's like, I need you right now. I'm 21 years old, and you're like
Yeah.
the lifeboat I'm clinging to. But like, I think she said exactly, I'm nobody's mother. So like,
Right.
she was very excited to have that ejection to pull, get out of there
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
Um, moving on to Nev, what did we think of our British singer-songwriter?
I mean, like, kind of just stereotypical white dude a lot of times, like, um, pretty full of himself and his fame. Like, I got the impression that he was the kind of don't meet your hero situation where, like, on the face of things, like, his PR probably makes him look like he's very approachable and, like, chill or whatever. And, like, that public face is not necessarily his real face. And, like, I don't think I dislike him on the whole. I just think he's a little bit spineless.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he's full on malicious.
I
But I
think
think that he doesn't make great choices because he's thinking of himself
Yeah,
only.
I think he's calculating. So
Yeah,
he looks at it and he says, okay, this is how I have to act right now, or this is what I have to do, whatever, in order to promote myself or move my career forward. I thought they did a great job with our introduction to him being that he was only going to give Sonny one interview for this book, and she had to go on his plane, his private
and
jet, which
he
she even
slept
notes is like
away.
maybe it was something in the 80s, but you can see it's falling apart now. And on this like whatever it was 10-11 hour flight to Japan or something that he's going for a show, he immediately falls asleep and she sits there for hours waiting for him to wake up because she's nervous and doesn't want to push him away or whatever, wants him to answer her questions. So I thought that was the perfect way to introduce him to kind of
Yeah.
show that like he was just big timing and like it's
Yeah.
still all about Nev.
Yeah.
And it gives you a taste of like because well you're hearing his story afterwards about how he grew up and like his father owned some fish and chips stores. So they had some money. His mother didn't work, but she was like a failed actress, kind of, that a lot of people like. She did some small plays at this point, and she fell into depression. And it was because of Nev's musicality that she started coming back, and how she was always pushing him to chase music, and his dad was pushing him to chase whatever, a degree in something, and he tried to walk both lines till his mother was killed in a car accident. And then he kind of moved on towards music. But like we even see it, like they know his first album doesn't do well. And like Bob Hyes, again, the producer, was like, you need something more. You need something to stand apart, because you're just whiny white guy playing an acoustic guitar right now. And you
I
need.
couldn't help but picture like Ed Sheeran, like when they were describing him.
It reminded me of Inside Llewyn Davis, if you've ever seen that movie. It's got Oscar Isaac. Shout out Poe Dameron. Take that, Angie. And it's kind of about the other people that were in Greenwich Village who were trying to make it when Dylan exploded, but like they were never found,
Oh,
even though they were talented. Like that's what I got from Nev. Like he had talent, especially in songwriting, but similar to Opal's sister, he had nothing in performance. He would just sit up
right.
there with his guitar and like shake kind of, and it just wasn't working
Not
out. So
particularly entertaining.
yeah, so I liked how we see present day Nev is a dick, but they're also giving us this like past Nev where you can kind of be like, oh, okay, like maybe he paid his dues and whatever. Like they don't
Right.
immediately turn you off to him, but there are the breadcrumbs there to be like, this guy is
I
probably
don't love
shady.
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So I thought the representation of both were really good. I like really that was definitely getting me interested. I think as we're building up to it, as part one kept going, we kept talking about the riot, and
Mm.
we'll get to that in spoilers, what happened there. But I felt like we kind of built up to a climax in the middle, and then we see people's true colors, but also it starts diving down a little bit. So we'll see how spoilers go. But before we get there, we have your get to know your podcaster question. So I like the idea of a true oral history from a band, and I'm not saying that's exactly what this is because it definitely got slanted towards Opal at times, but there were warts on both sides.
And then slanted towards Sunny.
Yeah, slanted, yeah, until it became about Sunny. So if you could get a copy of one that was 100% true in this kind of setup where they interviewed everybody from the band, went through different things, whatever, what band would you want to learn about? Or singer if it's just a solo act?
I don't know. I don't, this is gonna sound really shitty because I love music, but that is not like I don't care enough about bands to like pick one. Like I'm here for the music.
Just Ed Sheeran. Uh,
No. I had written down um something from like a nostalgia standpoint. So
yeah,
like I'd written down Talking Heads or the Eurythmics. Um, but if we're thinking like solo artists, then probably Leonard Cohen,
nice.
which I
See,
think there probably is a book somewhere about him because
well,
he's
that and there's yeah, there are, but like I always wonder how skewed they are. So it's
yeah.
interesting because like I don't know if it's because of actually just getting into actually playing music that I focus more on this, but like I love to know those behind the scene things, and like the when I do get into nonfiction, it's usually about that, about some kind of
Okay.
artist or something like that, because you get some of those stories. For on that note, my band would be the band, which I
Sure.
have read Levon's book about it. We watched a documentary that Robbie Robertson did, and historically, those two hate each other. So you kind of get the sheen on
Interesting.
each one,
Yeah.
and kind of like Robbie quote unquote took the high road, but if there's like a victor in any of this, it's Robbie. And like the whole reason that Levon was so against him, they've all passed now, is like it never used to be a thing about rights to the music, right? It used to just be like everyone kind of had it. It wasn't until commercials came around and that became a thing. And Robbie noticed that early. So he bought out all the other band members except for Levon, from the rights to their music, and then made a shit ton of money off of that afterwards. And while Robbie was responsible for a lot of the writing, it was always seen as a communal thing where they should all get equal credit. And
Yeah.
while other members of the band pushed themselves, like Levon says Rick Danko, who was the bassist, performed himself to death because he didn't have any money. while Robbie was
Oh,
getting the
wow.
royalties from their work that they previously done. So it's like if he had shared those, you know.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to get Robbie's side of that and like maybe a little bit off of Levon to, or like what Garth thought about the whole situation.
Yeah.
So if you could get like 100%, this is how it actually happened. And the other problem is a lot of these bands were doing a shit ton of drugs,
Right.
but it's crazy the influence that they can have because I'm a big Robbie hater, so it's just going to come out that way. It's a joke in our band whenever somebody's like acting up too much, we call them Robbie. Like, okay, Robbie, whatever you say. But if you've ever seen The Last Waltz, which is the band's last performance, it was a Thanksgiving Day show. It's an incredible concert. They bring in a ton of guests. It's incredible. The movie that they made of it was directed by Martin Scorsese. And even though Robbie Robertson does not sing, he never sang. They made sure he had a mic in front of him that was off so it would look like he was a bigger part of the vocal part of the band. So if you didn't know anything about the band and you watch it, you'd be like, oh, Robbie sings a lot. He doesn't actually sing at all. And it's that kind of stuff that stands out that you're like, that's
That's
how you get to be
crazy.
a Robbie. So on that note, let us know if you had anybody. Hold on. Sorry, wedding stuff. So yeah, so let us know if there's anything, any band that you'd be interested in to know about, or maybe you want a scraps oral history. We could give you that pretty quickly because the band doesn't have much. But on that note, we are going to move into spoilers. Before we do that, we have your song. This is the part that we're going into spoilers. If you don't know the book, get out. Because this is the part that we're going into spoilers. It's time to talk about what the Rivington riot was all about and all the controversy. And then learn more about Sonny Shelton as the book goes down. Anyway, it's all about hidden spoilers. All right. So the whole thing with the riot was between another band that had signed with the label, the Bond Brothers. And basically, they were promoting. They always had a Confederate flag that they used in all their promotion. They were gonna bring it onto the stage and wave it during their show, which they were told, which Opal and Nev were told weren't gonna do. And Opal and Nev were supposed to be the performance leading up to the Bond Brothers because they were the big artists at the time. I didn't write any of this in spoilers because I think maybe we were going to talk about it. I don't know. So long story long, Opal steals the flag, adds it to her dress that she was wearing, and hides it underneath, and basically makes it so it's covering her ass. And
Yeah, it gave me the impression they made like a diaper out of
yeah,
it.
that's kind of what I was getting for it. And then as the Bond brothers had brought a bunch of bikers from a gang there, and they were causing a lot of havoc before Opal and Nev took the stage, and then it just amplified because Opal and Nev also had Jimmy Curtis, so two black people on the stage, which was not what this biker gang wanted to see.
Triggering for those racist
Yes. So
bikers.
eventually, Opal gets so upset she shows them their flag covering her ass, and a fight breaks out where Jimmy Curtis, the drummer, is pulled off stage and killed. And Opal and Nev barely escape. Opal with a broken ankle, so Nev is carrying her, which is where the picture that we
Iconic photo.
touched on kind of came from, and then their popularity shot up from there. So now that you know all that, and we'll get into it a little bit more, I'm sure. While interviewing the lead singer of the Bond brothers, Chet Bond, he tells Sonny that Nev was the one who tipped him off that his Confederate flag was missing. If he hadn't, Chet probably wouldn't have noticed because of the drugs and alcohol in his system. He also pointed at Sonny's father, James Curtis, and told Chet that he had taken it. Nev has always maintained that the trauma of that night caused memory loss for him, and he doesn't remember much of the hours leading up to the show or after it. Sonny is unsure how to substantiate this claim, but when she reaches out to Nev's PR team, she is given a cold shoulder and a warning to back off. She continues her interviews and finally has a breakthrough with Opal when she flashes her attitude and pushes back on the star. Opal tells more of her story, and Sonny learns how much her father's death affected Opal and her decisions through the years. She doesn't have the heart to tell Opal about Chet's accusations against Nev at this time. Back in New York, Sonny interviews Opal's longtime friend and stylist Virgil. When he tells her that there's a whole reunion tour planned, not just the one-night festival show, Sonny balks at it, but knows she can't tell Virgil about her suspicions with Nev because it will immediately get back to Opal. Longtime producer Bob Hayes dies 6 weeks before the reunion show, and all of Rivington Records shows up for a small gathering at his apartment. Nev surprises everyone by playing some songs on Bob's old piano, which which causes Sunny to have to step into the hallway to get away from it. Here she finds Opal pacing, as it has been decades since she has seen most of the Rivington group and she left on bad terms. She turns that anxiety into anger and confronts Sunny about why she thinks Opal shouldn't do a whole reunion tour. Opal believes Sunny has been bad-mouthing her behind her back and doesn't think she can handle a full tour. Backed into a corner, Sunny tells her what Chet Bond said, and Opal lashes out against her. The scene grows when the PR woman Lizzie gets involved, and Sunny is told to leave. An article is written about the confrontation and shows Sunny as a crazed journalist attacking mourners. She is then asked to resign from her position as editor-in-chief and does with the concession that she can keep the rights to her book and still tell this story. Sunny is now listless for a few weeks, but decides to go to the festival show to see Opal and Nev perform. At the show, a trio of young black women jostle their way to the front and upset a white Karen, who is the worst. During Opal's set with Nev, security comes and forcefully drags one of the women away, tearing her clothes and knocking her to the ground. Opal sees this and tries to stop the show to get help for the woman, and while she is screaming and trying to get Nev to stop, the crew cuts her microphone and Nev motions to the band to keep playing. Opal kisses Nev goodbye mid-set and leaves the stage. As Sunny is getting back to her car, she sees a report that Opal gave an impromptu press conference while Nev was still performing, stating that there was going to be more shows, but she cannot in good conscience perform with Nev if he is so willing to close his eyes while black people are being dragged and beaten in the crowd. For Opal, it was deja vu back to the Rivington showcase and watching helplessly as James Curtis was killed by a gang of bikers in the audience. She refuses to be a part of this. Sunny gets a call from Virgil to meet them at a diner nearby, and Opal asks why she wasn't working press at the show and is stunned to learn about Sunny being fired. The two talk more, and Opal says that after what happened that day, she could see Nev potentially doing the things Chet Bond accused him of. She gives a written testimony about it for Sunny's book, and then the two of them make their way back to New York together. They drive off into the sunset, and the curtain comes down, and that's our scene.
And then you're like, is that really how you ended a book?
Yeah, is that it? We're dancing to...
Like, not this book, the book that you published about Opal and Nev?
Yeah, we'll get into our ending. So before we do, let's talk about the riot at the Rivington Showcase. It was always the major focus around Opal and Nev's career as well as this story. What did you think as we learned the details of that night and the different people's parts in it?
I mean, incredibly believable because this country is problematic.
Remains problematic, yeah.
What do you mean? Everything's hunky-dory. I think that I don't know. I mean, I guess it was the 70s, right?
Yeah, it was 1970 on the dot.
Okay. So from like a racism standpoint, it tracks, and also could see it happening in this day and age. The only difference being probably he wouldn't have been beaten to death. He would have gotten shot. But yeah, I mean, it's sadly super realistic. I mean, I think in terms of the players, as it were, I think to your point before about Opal's sort of naivete, or not necessarily naivete, because like she knows what that symbol means. She has like a personal experiences, being down south and so forth. Like she's not ignorant of that whole thing, but she definitely isn't considering, is this the time or place to be doing something like that? Does this make sense given, I mean, granted, most of the people were out, most of the players were backstage, but like the bikers were rowdy enough to be, it wasn't a secret that was happening. It wasn't a secret that they were likely gonna react the way they did. Like none of that is surprising. So I guess it is a little frustrating that she didn't think about what that would mean. And granted, Jimmy like went down there and like,
well, so the other Bond brother got pushed onto the stage.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
According to Chet, he was pushed onto the stage.
that. Right.
But for the people performing, they just see him come running out onto stage.
Right.
And Jimmy jumps him because it looks like he's going for Opal. And
Right.
that's when others, I think the Bond Brothers band, start jumping on him, and they eventually pull him off the
Pull him
stage
off.
into the
Okay.
crowd.
So he did like jump to the rescue, I
Yeah.
guess I should say. But I do feel like in terms of that event, I also felt some frustration that throughout the book, not Chet, the other brother, is that the
Yeah, the other Bond brother. I didn't write down his name.
Bo?
Bo, yeah.
Bo.
Nice.
That they never like found him and talked with him because like there were a couple of times where I forget who it was recounting things, but when she was interviewing them, they basically were saying that he was like the most mild of them, like maybe he wasn't as heavily racist or like, wouldn't have started shit. So it would have been interesting to have gotten a more level-headed perspective from the Bond brother side. Um, and that was a little frustrating because I feel like that would have just almost fully cleared up the
Yeah. I mean, obviously in this moment, tensions are really high, and
right.
like Jimmy had, because the session players, the band had been playing back
For everyone.
for the people that needed it, including the band that went on before Opal and Nev,
Right.
who was like the Macarena sisters or whatever they were. I forget their actual name. It was
Yeah.
Rockettes, but something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like three white women in like short skirts that were doing
And
their
they were
thing.
getting
And they were getting stuff thrown at them and booed at and, told off. So Jimmy comes back to Opal and it's like, hey, like,
don't
if
do
the
this.
white women are getting this treatment, what are you going to get? Like, you need to not do this, whatever. And Nev, of course, is the exact opposite because he sees this as their chance. The whole showcase has been their chance to kind of push their music. So there's a bunch of, in the mezzanine, there's a bunch of
reporters
and news and everything like that. So like this is their chance to be heard. So Nev is grabbing his guitar and going out there as fast as they can. And we get that quick internal struggle between Opal as she's like, that's my chance. Like I could either save or I could take my chance. And she's always been a woman who takes chances. And at that point, we learned the last words that Jimmy says to her is, you're just a child. Like you're a child, again, with that naivete. So he agrees to go out with her, go out on stage with her.
On stage, yeah.
I thought it was, again, and in the heat of the moment, stuff happens. But the way, as you were saying, like some of the other people, I think it was the secretary from Rivington and maybe some of the other acts, talks about how for that week, they had a week to prepare this showcase. And Bo was there every day. And the rest of the Bond brothers weren't. So they weren't even practicing or doing anything. But he was there with the other acts, kind of talking to him. And like Opal mentions that she didn't believe it, right? She's like, no, he's still a racist son of a bitch, whatever. But the other people were giving us that side of like the quiet guitarist who just like really loves his craft and seems to actually be talented and is the one carrying his brother and his racist friends in this band. So yes, it's a heat of things and things are going crazy. But if anybody else came on stage, I would think maybe they were going for Opal. But the fact that it's Bo, you would think in that moment they might have some sort of like benefit of the doubt for him. And if Jimmy doesn't jump him, the thing doesn't escalate as much. Now, the other thing we touch on was not only was Opal wearing this as a diaper, but after she shows that off, she takes it off and then rips it apart.
It already had holes in it because she'd already like done stuff to it.
Yeah, she had already poked the holes in it. So she like
I fully support destroying the Confederate flag.
Yes, fair. Maybe not in this moment.
No, the time and the place really matter.
As this was already a powder keg set to explode, literally just threw fireworks at it to make sure it did explode. So I think, as you were saying, completely believable for the times then and now. The fact that the only victim in this was the black man, of course, makes a lot of sense because of who was involved.
And the fact that like none of them were prosecuted for like anything.
I think they said the longest jail term was 6 months for inciting a riot.
I mean, again, they were basically like a slap on the wrist.
Because it wasn't like they just threw him and like he broke his neck.
Oh no, they
beat the shit out of him for a long time and then threw him and broke his neck. So it wasn't like an obviously none of it was an accident, but it wasn't like, oh, we pushed him and he hit his head.
And he hit his head. Yeah.
No, we maliciously attempted to kill him and were successful.
Yeah. And the thing about the like the space, the event space, how like where's any sort of like they didn't have security, and honestly, like what would security is probably like some guy who this is like,
Like an
a side
usher.
hustle. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the ushers were like legit high school kids or some shit. Like they're not
Yeah.
gonna help, and fine, totally understandable, but like it's New York City, you should be able to like get some cops there in
Yeah.
like a relatively quick time, or some call in some backup.
Yeah.
And the secretary was like, I said to do it.
But nobody
I
listened to
didn't
a
do it.
woman back then either.
Yep.
Yep. Um, yeah. So I think there's a lot of times that there was a lot of chances for this not to happen. And like she even mentions the bassist and the guitarist who just
Yes.
ran that
Yeah.
the other band players. And like afterwards,
They regret
one of
the
them mentions how like he's felt like a coward because of that. But in that moment, he was thinking, I've got
I have
three
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
You know, the other guy's got kids. Like we were just thinking, fuck, if something happens to us, we're in trouble. But he even mentions like his cowardice that he couldn't even approach Sonny's mother afterward,
Right. Right. He
and
just like
just
sent
how,
flowers or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
and how shitty that made him feel, that he probably should have, that he definitely should have done more for Jimmy, but
Mm.
didn't. So I liked the whole picture we got. The thing
Yes.
that upset me, maybe it's too strong a word, but that annoyed also sounds
Disappointing.
terrible. But we built up to this for so long. And again, like I think it's in the first editor's note, or it's very, we learn
Really.
that not only is Sonny Shelton Jimmy Curtis's daughter, but Jimmy Curtis had an affair with Opal and also died at this showcase. Like
Yeah.
very early, like first 30 pages, we learned this. So we know what happens, right? We just don't know all the details. So I think it was like 250 pages we like build up to this showcase. And I get we have to have the backstory of Opal and Nev, and like that's their big moment. But they took off from this moment, as again, Nev is never one to let a chance go. So he sees like they get that picture taken of Nev carrying Opal out again because she broke her foot as the tear gas, I think, was coming out of the theater and all this stuff. And that
Super
reporter just
dramatic
happened
picture.
to be there snapping that picture, and that became like an image of the year. So more people were interested in their music, and they used that to like immediately get back in studio and do another album, and suddenly their career blows up. So like there was still more to it, but I just felt like once we hit that, like we climaxed there, and then it was like, okay, now what?
Now what
Now
do we talk
like
about?
now we
Yeah.
learn about like the slow deterioration. No, it was a quick deterioration of their band. But it's like a slow, we still have like 200 pages left of this book. What's left to discover here?
So after that, that whole, I guess, storytelling portion of for the actual riot, I had like forgotten that the story is about the final, like them getting back together. Like it took me, because like you said, there was like 200 something pages getting up to the riot event and talking about that. And then I was like, okay, where are we gonna go from here? And then at one point I was like, oh yeah, like they're supposed to do something else. Like that kind of got lost for me.
Yeah, I agree. And then once she interviews Chet Bond, and we have that encounter,
Ugh.
and she reaches out to Lizzie, the PR person, and Nev turns away. She's like, "Okay, I'm just going to turn this into a story about Opal then. Like Opal
Yeah.
becomes the focus, which she
Yeah.
basically already was
Yeah.
anyway, comparatively. But yeah, then I get that we were like, I don't know, she was rediscovering herself or whatever, but like her time in France and like all that stuff and like how her career went, it just it falls flat after that moment. And like I get we still have to get from point A to point B, and like hearing about their tour afterwards and how Nev, because of I think he broke some ribs too or something like that,
Yeah.
he like becomes addicted to opioids, of course, because
Yep.
everyone does, and becomes like
Yep.
a hardcore drug and alcohol user. And Opal doesn't. And like their tour, she like holds their tour together with band-aids and everything.
Yeah.
Then when they get home, Nev goes to rehab, and Opal disappears to France to try to recoup, and then she doesn't come back
And
for a
then
year.
somehow it's like Opal's fault that things fell apart.
Well, because she's not the white man, obviously.
Right,
Yeah.
obviously.
And then Nev turns his life into pop music basically and becomes like this big star.
Ed
Uh,
Sheeran.
yeah, it becomes Ed Sheeran. Yeah. And Opal falls to the wayside where
Yeah.
she kind of writes bad poetry and just like tries some albums that just never really hit the acclaim that they could. So like it just I get that. I don't know. Maybe if we're following Nev at that point, it's more exciting because of what his stardom is. But obviously, he's not the story at that point.
Right.
Or wouldn't have made sense. It left a weird feeling in the middle of this book.
Yeah, like the pacing felt strange.
Yeah. Well, it's again, you're like, okay, do I really care about that she was holding these like poetry nights in France?
Right? I like kind of forgot that that whole thing even happened. Like, how was that advancing the story,
Yeah.
the understanding of this person?
Yeah. I don't know, the struggles. On that point, as we see this event happen and we learn more about them in the afterwards, I was wondering if your opinion of Opal or Nev changed as you finished the book.
I wouldn't say changed, more like solidified Nev
Yeah.
for me. Like the whole convenient amnesia about the riot was just like giant eye roll. Um, and just a way to not take accountability for his part in any of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cop out. Which, like you said, we're kind of set up to understand that that's the way Nev is with his whole like falling asleep at the beginning of their interview time together and like just very like me, chasing fame and I don't want to say popularity, but like he wants to be known
Yeah.
and he's going to do things even if it's not comfortable for other people, to get to that point.
Yeah, he's willing to step on and push anyone else down for sure.
Yeah. And the riot and like the aftermath and like even how he was like mostly the amnesia bit of it. I just find that so I understand trauma can work that way, but like, bro,
Yeah.
you're
It-
not really fooling anyone.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I know everyone's different, but like if Opal can remember what happened, you know,
Yeah, and she had such a more personal connection to the man who was murdered
yeah.
than Nev did. And it just feels like such a white dude move.
Well, and then the fact that like afterwards after the riot, he's like living at Bob Hyde's house, and just like, oh my ribs forever. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
even
the one
like
that
I think to the point where Bob's wife was like, okay.
yeah, like Jimmy Curtis died, dude. It's not
Yeah.
about you anymore.
Yeah.
I think you're right on the solidifying. I think the big moment where the luster kind of comes off both Opal and Nev for Sarah Lena or Sonny, I thought was good because that kind of happened to me too, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you really humanized them again. I think they always kind of were to us because we never saw them
Sure.
as that on the
Sure.
pedestal. It's not a real band that we grew
Right.
up listening to. But yeah, I think like it more just showed their human side. It also just kind of showed how damaged Opal was. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people realized especially the people that knew them was like, oh, your lover just died in front of you. That's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But to hear about her still carrying that picture of him from the end of their first record recording
Mhm.
and how much that meant to her and how she brought it to France and to LA and to all the different places, it's always been with her and how much, even though she like didn't want to be trapped by this man, how much he meant to her. Maybe it's part of the loss is part of why he means so much. But I liked that showed that took away her bravado and that took away
Yeah.
her kind of that persona, the Opal persona that's bigger than life, and made her more human.
Real person.
And
Yeah.
also like made me like her a little bit more that she was showing that kind of emotion where it seemed like
Yeah.
she was hiding from that.
Yeah, I said that she kind of I like gained a little bit more respect for her. I think all the things you just said. I think it was interesting too how like when the rose-colored glasses came off for Sunny, that's when Opal really started to like open up more to her. Like
Yeah,
when she kind of could admit that she maybe didn't keep Opal on that pedestal any longer. That was when it was like, here's my house and you can see all these pictures and like here's the real me.
yeah,
Um and I liked that. I thought it was at one point she had Opal had said that Jimmy was like, she loved him and she cared about him a lot, but he was also kind of like a teacher. a mentor, like
Yeah.
somebody who was showing her the ropes, obviously like in a different way than Virgil, because that's like who she was learning like to be
New York
social.
society. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but to have somebody that means so much to you from a um I guess career, I was gonna say like the passion of music, and
Yeah.
like having that be a connection, and then the race thing too, like they're surrounded by white people in their job. So it makes sense that they'd gravitate towards each other. And I don't know, I think that her her reaction to Jimmy telling her not to go on stage also felt really real because like you said, she's a child, like
Yeah.
like Jimmy said. But she also, as a woman, to have somebody, a man, any man, be like, you don't do this, but it's like warring with this is what she wants, her career and so forth. And then just, I don't know. I think that her I think maybe she admits that at some point that like if she just listened to Jimmy, like obviously things would be different, but like things would be different in a lot of respects.
Yeah. Oh, and I think too, like when you look back on it and with 2020 hindsight, she didn't really get the same boost that Nev did, right? Because Nev becomes like a global superstar. And
Yeah.
while maybe that second album doesn't get made and maybe she doesn't have that year, like she doesn't become as much of an icon as she
Right.
is, it's not like financially she did incredible. Like she
Right.
did well enough to like be okay,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, I think you look at it and be like, was his life really worth what I got out of this? And then she probably would
Right.
know, I would think, after the fact. Or maybe there's another chance, there would have been another chance for us, like just because this one didn't work out. Like, but I understand
Well,
in that moment you're 21 and you've been struggling for your life and you're
and Nev
thinking,
is pressuring you to be like, this is the only time we can do
yeah,
this.
and
This is
Nev always has your best interest in her. What do you
right.
think? I didn't really talk about this or put it in here. What do you think of their like attempted romance? Because like it didn't really happen, but like Nev,
There were times when it seemed like it was going to be something more.
well, and I think assuming that Chet Bond's story is true, like I think part of him singling out Jimmy was the jealousy of her choosing him over Nev multiple times.
I don't know. Um, I wasn't convinced that I don't want to say it wasn't a real thing. Like I just wasn't convinced that um there was an attempted romance. I think that I could understand a little bit of the Chet Bonds, like there's jealousy, but I think that's just like a cop out. I think it wasn't necessarily like lover jealousy. I think it was jealousy of like Nev wanted to be close with her. Like I don't necessarily think that he wanted to sleep with her, but like and they had moments where they were working really well together and it seemed like it was a dynamic duo. And I think that Jimmy was a threat to that closeness.
I think Nev was worried about losing her and was just looking for another way to tie her down, kind of
Yeah, sure.
like keep her close. I think you're hitting it there with that. Like I don't know, and you're getting Opal's side of it. Like Nev never really talks about it, obviously, because
Right.
we only have one interview with
It's,
him.
yeah.
But some of the others kind of made it seem like Nev was a lot more into her than she was into him,
Yeah.
and that could have played a part in it. I just thought. I don't know. I think that jealousy angle, whether it is professionally or personally, played
Sure,
a
sure,
part
sure.
in, assuming he did point out Jimmy Curtis, which I don't know why you wouldn't.
I yeah.
I will say, you touched on it before. I don't know, pre, post, during recording. The fact that we never got the other Bond brothers story, we didn't get Bo's story, and like the
Frustrating.
fact that there was a throwaway line in there where it was like, "Oh, I didn't have the money to run him down. He's been missing since like 1973 or something like that." It's like, have you heard of the internet?
Well,
Like, come on,
especially once she learns about,
what
well, I
Chet
shouldn't say
said.
learns, but when Chet like
Yeah,
says what he says about Nev, like that's the time you invest the
yeah,
money in figuring this shit out.
yeah. That's a huge story.
Especially if you're going to be writing a whole book about it. Like
What if this like iconic moment is not what we think? Here's a eyewitness account from somebody we haven't seen in 40 years.
Yeah,
Might make sense. Might make Nev talk if there was somebody actually doubting him or going against him.
right. Or who had like, yeah.
Trauma clears up. Before we get to our ending, I want to touch on the additional spoilers, which were basically just me listing other characters, our secondaries that we didn't touch on. I think, well, the two biggest ones here, Bob Hayes, the producer, and Virgil LaFleur, Opal's friend. Either one that you want to start with, but just give me what you thought of them as characters.
I thought Bob Hayes was a really interesting character. It was super sad that he died.
Yeah,
But also made it incredibly realistic, and I liked the kind of sense of urgency that gave when they were talking and how she really formed a connection with him during the interviews, and I thought that was pretty cool. He was incredibly sage about looking back at the whole situation and kind of hindsight's 2020, wishing he'd like done things a little differently in regards to the Bond brothers and Opal and Nev, obviously, and like the whole ensemble of people at Rivington Records.
yeah,
And I think that that's, you know, a very common thing looking back at the end of your life, at your career that was your whole, almost your whole identity was this. Um, and kind of thinking of the what ifs or like admitting that there are things that you could have done differently. And I respect that because I think it shows fault and, or,
yeah.
not fault, but like fallibility.
I liked how he, um, like in the moment when this was all happening, you can understand why he had a young child and his wife, and he bet on himself
Yep.
to make a hit, and he thought it would be with Opal and Nev, and then that fell apart. So when the Bond brothers, who was like their version of Leonard Skinner-ish, fell into their laps, yeah, he goes along with it because they're selling records, and I
Right.
still need to make a living. But yeah, when he looks back at it, he says, "Oh, I kind of helped push this along by pushing them along. I should have never done that." I
Right.
loved his line where he was like, if there's anybody to blame for what happened at that showcase, it's me and Opal and Nev and
Yeah.
Howie. And yeah, like he names them all. He's
It's
like,
not a single
yeah,
person.
it's not any like he starts off that way. You're like, oh, okay, Bob. And he's like, and all these other people though. Like
Yeah.
we all share a bit of that shit pie.
Yeah.
And we all had a chance to probably de-escalate it at different times
Yeah.
or be smarter about what we were doing.
Or maybe if we just listen to Rosemary.
Right. So I enjoyed his I enjoyed their conversation, and I
Yeah.
liked how he brought that outside perspective and was able to like he focused a lot on the music. Like he didn't have a personal connection. He did more with Nev because Nev crashed on his
Right.
couch for a while. But he didn't really have that connection with Opal, but still he kind of took her under his wing, and he even mentions too, like later on, like I wish I did more for her after
Right.
the fact.
Right.
But like she left Rivington in such a shitty way that
Yeah.
he again
It
felt
was
like
like
his hands were
awkward.
tied.
Yeah, and she'd said something about that too in an interview, how like Bob and her had no bad blood.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I liked Bob a lot. I thought he was a really calming character to give
Yeah.
us that point of view. And obviously, you need his death to bring him together to have that moment
To
of
have that climactic, yeah.
blow up. And so then Virgil, what'd you think of Virgil LaFleur?
Fucking gem. I love Virgil. Um, I loved um how he was just like baby birding Opal. Like, let
Yeah,
me show you how this place is, New York City, and get you involved in things that without Virgil she wouldn't have ever been introduced to, like from like the fashion perspective or whatever. But then he was also like able to, she was kind of his like Barbie doll. He got to mess around with stuff because she was like willing to be like loud and
yeah,
whatnot, fashionably speaking. And I also appreciate though that he kind of has some, not necessarily regrets, but he's like, if I hadn't been so sort of singularly focused on her and her career and what was going on with her, like I maybe would have made some different choices.
yeah,
And I mean, like, I love that there's no bad blood between them too.
yeah,
And that they're still good friends. And I don't know. He's a ride or die.
And I loved that they had to have that moment where Opal decides she's going to stay in France because he had gone with her originally, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Well, I can't do that. Like, I've got offers to go
I've
to this
got
fashion school, and like, I
right.
need to look after myself too. Like, I can't always be holding your fucking hand. I've
Yes.
been doing it for so long."
Get out
And
of the nest.
they have that moment, and Opal takes, 9 months or whatever in France afterwards. But when she comes back, she like realizes that she was kind of a one-way friend. And that makes their relationship so much stronger as she
Yeah,
like sees Virgil as not just her own personal stylist, but as a stylist who
right.
has other needs and things to
Things
do.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I like that made it was like a rocky patch, but it made their relationship stronger.
Yeah.
I liked how strong his voice was. I like how it they brought in the AIDS epidemic that happened in the 80s when they were
Yes.
talking about one of his lovers or boyfriends, and how they lost him and many other people. Like I did again, kind of keeping it in our world and
Yeah,
giving
for
us those
sure.
hits as we talk about them moving from the 70s forward, I thought was really strong. And I just thought Virgil, his voice was so strong throughout, and like his confidence in both
I
how
love
he
him.
dressed Opal, but just in himself as well.
Yeah.
The French talking got me a few times when he
I
like
was
would just go off on a rant in French, and I'm like, well, I have no idea what that means, but cool, Virgil. But again, it just gave credibility, as I think we've seen those people who just kind of are like, oh, it's like this, and
yeah.
yeah, brought him to life more.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely had a good voice. I liked him.
So the last two from Rivington was Rosemary Salducci, who was our secretary, and Howie Kelly, who was the original owner. Just any quick thoughts on them?
Just Rosemary's great. I love
Badass.
how much information she has because like secretaries like see a lot.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that she kind of knew that everybody kind of underestimated her. But she still had confidence. I mean, obviously she's like, whatever, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, but
Yeah.
like I fucking told you so.
Yeah, I liked the moment in the hotel bar where she was on a date and then Opal
Oh
came
yeah.
over and the guy was like, "Oh, where's your man going?" He's like, "Oh, back to his husband or back to his wife." And like Rosemary and her shared a moment. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I liked how straightforward she was and kind of like she didn't take any sides. So she was just going to
Yeah.
tell you exactly how it was.
I don't know why I thought this the whole time, and I think it's not real, but in my mind, I was picturing her as just being like um, a somewhat heavily Italian lady from New Jersey that
Yep.
like
It's probably the last name Salducci. That'll
yeah,
get you.
that's probably what it was. But just sort of that like Jersey accent was what
Yeah.
I was picturing.
Yeah, the no bullshit taken now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Howie just
Oh, Howie can fuck off.
yeah, just another, but keeping his voice
Oh
consistent,
yeah.
misogynistic,
Yep.
egotistical, dumb
Yep.
piece of shit,
Yep.
white man.
Yeah, and like totally tracks that he like accidentally found the Bond brothers and then they like kind of accidentally got great. And they got great because too many people are racist and like that shit.
Yes. So yeah, again, just touching on all the good characters, all the good voices, I should say. They're not all good characters. And on that note, we move on to our ending, our second climactic piece of work. What did you think of the festival show and the ending of our story?
I felt like I don't want to, I wrote down sped up, but I don't know that that's quite right. It just felt like the pacing was a little different, and maybe that was because we were like being removed so much from what the book is. Like we talked about before, like at that point, that bit was so long, I was like, is this in the book that she's publishing, or is this outside of the book that she's publishing and this is for us?
Yeah,
And that muddying kind of, I don't want to say ruined it for me, but it took me out of the understanding space that I'd been in for the rest of the book.
yeah,
Um, so that was a little weird, I guess. I don't think I hated it, but it felt like maybe the story got put into the box, but the bow didn't actually get like tied.
yeah. Yeah, again, I think this is where if we found Bo and had some kind of damning evidence
Yeah.
there, like I get that, in its own way, it shows that Nev has only ever cared about himself. And
Hmm.
because we have that moment where he refuses to stop, where they cut off Opal's microphone, where like they just kind of, he like makes a motion to the band to like keep playing, we're gonna go into the next song or whatever. It just shows his true colors. So there's that. As I touched on before, like if we ended there, like with her kissing him as like the farewell goodbye kiss and storming off the stage, I think I'd be okay with it. Like if we're gonna get the same ending we got, I would have rather the book ended there
Yeah,
because we
sure.
don't really get from that diner scene, we don't really get any other major closure. Like it's just Opal agreeing that yeah, he probably could have done it, but we already see that in her response at the festival.
Right. And I think like that's the part that's the muddiest for me because it feels the most like it's no longer the the Opal and Nev book.
Yeah.
It's like something outside of it. And if it's something outside of it and she's reflecting on the response that the world has given to the book that she's written, that would have been I would have almost preferred we'd gone further and done that because
Yeah.
I'd want to know like how Nev responded to the accusation effectively. Like that, I don't know, having it be in this weird limbo space between like what you said, stopping at like when Opal leaves the stage or stopping where we're so much further out that like then Nev got a response to the I don't know. I just like it felt incomplete.
Yeah. And then basically they sum up the future of what happens to them in two footnotes, where it's like
Yeah.
Opal would go on to like become an icon again, and like the woman who got dragged off at the concert becomes her like social media
Yeah.
or whatever, and yada yada yada. And then Sunny talks about how she decided to like go with a publisher that was more independent, and I think maybe minority owned or something like that. Like, but that's it. That's like how we. That's yeah.
Maybe that's what I needed. Maybe I just needed Nev's response
In a
in
footnote.
a little footnote.
Yeah, even if you just did like the accusation was brought up and Nev declined to answer once more or something like
Right.
that. Like as
Right.
dumb as that, I don't know. It just felt a little bit incomplete at the end, and like you've given a lot of time to this book, and you're like, okay, like where do we go from here? And instead, it's like that cinematic scene of them just driving off, and it's like, okay, that's fine for a movie, I guess, but like I want some goddamn closure.
Right. Right. I mean, especially if you are going to put footnotes about like the what happened to Opal and the at publication time, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, but what about I don't know. It
Yeah,
just
did you make that written testimony public? Like, did you post that? Did you write a story about that? About how,
yeah.
like, because then
Because
Nev
it
would
feels
have to
like that would
respond.
have blown up. Like it
Yeah.
feels like there would have been something
And there was
else.
enough
Yeah.
people taking video and stuff like that that they could see
Yeah.
his response in real time. So he wouldn't be able to hide from it as much, you
Right.
know?
And he wouldn't have be able to say like he doesn't remember.
Yeah. It was kind of like the show they were talking about how when Opal leaves unexpectedly, he had already played the hits and now he's just like dwindling on these bad songs. So like people are leaving. Like that's kind
Oh,
of how the end of the book felt.
totally. And how people were like, "Oh, we need our money back because we
Yeah.
came there to see her and she was gone." Like, yeah, I don't know. The ending was like not as satisfying as I think it could have been.
Yeah, I agree. I think I just hoped for more. I don't know. I think you said it right. Like it was an untied bow, which is just weird.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
a
like it was
little
still
fumbling.
bows, but like not really.
Yeah.
The beginning of a bow.
We've got the ribbon out. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No.
Yeah, I think we eventually covered everything. I don't know. But yeah. So on that note, we're going to move out of spoilers. Moving out of spoilers, we're not yet done with the book. We have to give it our grade. We do this based on our D&D D20 scale. So 1 is bad, 20 is good, and then we add or subtract a characteristic, modifier, skill, ability from the game Dungeons and Dragons that we think best fits the story. We alternate every episode, and this time it is mine to go first. I will say through our discussion of this, I'm going to take one more point away from this on my roll. As we were talking about it, I just feel like it's been a little bit, I don't know, in reflection, it didn't hold up as well as I thought. So I'm going to give it a roll of 13. I think kind of the ending falling flat, the build up to our big climactic event that happened in the middle of the book, and then how it was handled afterwards. As you said, it kind of gets muddied. The pacing falls off a little bit. Like I think she does really well connecting this world to our world, as I was saying,
Definitely.
with even in like the afterwards of after the event, like in the event, it feels very much 1970s, but in the afterwards, making some connections there that again reaffirm that we're in this world and like some of
Yeah.
the using popular figures for some
Yeah.
quick hits in there as well worked, but it just felt, as we were just discussing in spoilers, like unfinished, which is kind of frustrating when you think about how this, like, even as if this was a book about a real band, I'd be kind of even more upset, right? Like
Right.
if I picked this
Right.
up to learn about Opal and Nev, I'd be like, wait, okay, you didn't really uncover anything. Like,
Yeah. What do we really learn?
yeah, it felt like she was just rehashing all that stuff until that last interview with Opal, but even that is like not incredibly life-shattering or earth-shattering. I
Right.
guess I think it is more for Sunny, as we talked about, like the book becomes about Sunny,
Yeah.
which is just a little strange. So I'm going to give this a +1 for charisma. And kind of as my first point about the book was the fact that one person gave us so many different point of views in these snippet bites, but
Yeah.
kept to their voice so strongly is definitely the thing I'm going to pull away from this. Like the fact that she made her characters so boisterous and larger than life and distinct, but then
Yeah.
held their voices throughout the whole thing, I think was really impressive. And kind of going back to Daisy Jones and the Six, like, yeah, I know about Daisy Jones and I can't even remember the guy, the lead of the band, but like their two voices were strong, but like the rest of the band was kind of like, yeah, they're all a bunch of white guys.
They're there.
Like
Yeah.
they're there. So I think in that sense, it did a much better job than that. And I think that's a charisma thing where you're kind of showing who you are and showing that
Yeah.
personality. So overall, that's going to be a 14 for me.
I also took my grading down a little bit during our discussion. I think that for all the points you said too, I agree completely. I think for me, the style, I don't dislike this style like Daisy Jones and this one. It wasn't unfamiliar, I guess I'd put it that way. But I did struggle with like the muddied waters of kind of like, is this supposed to be inside or outside the book? Like, that. I did really like how she melded her fictional world or fictional reality with our real one and the situations happening at the times that the stories are. I think all of that came through really well, and the characters' voices were all really well done. Um, so realistic sometimes that I was like, are these people real?
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. So I'm giving it a 14 for my straight roll, for all of those reasons. And then I'm giving it a 1+1 for investigation, which feels a little bit of a cop out, but I thought that just from like even though the story became more about Sunny, it was kind of like investigating her, not her origin, because that's obviously not true, but like things that shaped her situation with her dad being gone and her mom raising her on her own, and even like her education because Opal paid for that.
Yeah.
And like, I think that it was sort of like she needed to figure all this out for herself. I think writing a book was a little like above and beyond what was necessary, but of course it gives some credence to why you're even like, people are
Yeah.
gonna not be into interviewing with you if you're just like, this is for my own edification.
Right.
um so I think that investigation is mostly about Sunny kind of figuring shit out for herself.
Yeah.
If it opens the doors for any of these other characters to reflect on the situation, fine, but I don't think that was the purpose. Um, and there were times when I liked that and times when I didn't like that. Like we talked about there at the end too. Like I don't know. It became a story not about Opal and Nev. It was a
Yeah.
story about how Opal and Nev shaped Sunny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which is fine. And I think that there were definitely a lot of really uh poignant points about the culture and society and the different time periods that the book covers, that were valuable. Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's a 15 total.
Nice. as you were saying that, one point we forgot to bring up was I did appreciate the conversation she had with her mother when she's like, "Oh, I'm thinking about giving up the book," and the mother's like, you
You
fucking
don't
put
give
me
up.
through this, and you're just giving up. Like, you
Yeah.
think I wanted to do this? I told you not to do this, and if you think you're walking away from it, like,
Yeah, that was a
better
good pep
fuck up,
talk.
kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. So combined, that is a 14 and a half. Not terrible. It's about the average score of last year's books. So if you want to check that out, once again, the book was The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton. Um, I'm sure you can find it out there. It's in both hardcover and paperback, and there was two copies at my store, which is why it was a surprise book. So, on that note, we're going to move away from the book, but we're not yet done with the podcast. We have our segments. We're going to start with something we missed last episode, which is current selection. We
Oh
did not
yeah.
talk about that. Tasha, feel free to talk about anything and everything you've been getting into the last few weeks.
Okay, because we missed it last time, I'm not sure if my stuff is up to date, but I was like trying to finish up my 2025 reading goal. So I picked a couple of short books.
Nice.
I read War Cry, Brian McKellen, and then This Winter, which is an Alice.
Oh, Osman. Yeah.
Yeah, just because they were little.
Nice.
Both were good. I mean,
Okay.
I liked the Heartstopper stuff, so that was just pleasant. And obviously an easy read. And then I read this book called The League of Gentlewomen Witches. It was something that was like, I think free on my Kindle, or I don't know how I ended up with it. It turns out it's like the second book of
Nice.
a series, which whoops.
That
Um,
happens.
But it's like period piece-ish, like alternate history kind of thing where it's like um I don't know, maybe like 18 or 1800s England or 1900s England. I don't know. Some frickin' time period in England. And there are witches versus pirates.
Of
And the thing that really upset me about it was kind of like a romance-ish
course.
thing. Um, but the thing that annoyed me the most was that in this universe, witches are like illegal and you can't like tell people that you're witches. They're all like, oh, witches don't exist, but like, here, I'm gonna do some magic on the side. But then pirates are apparently known entities and they just go around in flying houses, which is clearly magic. So, like, what the fuck? Why is there a delineation? Like, maybe it's because I'm coming in on the second book, but
Yeah.
that pissed me off. I was like, I can't get fully into this story because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And they just kept like pulling on it too, pulling on the like, well, witches don't aren't a thing, blah blah blah. But like, oh, look at that flying house, totally normal. Um, so that was obnoxious. And then I finished Killers of the Flower Moon and the seventh Kelcade
Yeah, kid.
Kingstar Tidings book, Rise of, I don't remember what it was called. I finished that one last night and like obnoxiously they keep ending on these cliffhangers, which like I should expect it now, but also because I'm listening to it in the car most of the time, I don't have a good handle on like how far into the book I am. So the end just like
Happened.
I was driving and then it was like epilogue. I was like, what the fuck? Um, so yeah, some shit's going down. I don't know when the next one's coming out, but obviously I have to read it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say this one was like a 4 star, not a 5 star.
Oof.
Um,
Falling off.
yeah, I don't know. Like sometimes the story seems like not much is happening,
Yeah.
and then till it like the end where it's like, oh, what happened? Obviously.
A lot of the Wheel of Time was that way, where it was
Yeah,
like they would get you at the last 100 pages.
yeah.
Fuck! Now I want to keep reading, but then
Now
you're
I have
like,
to do it again.
yeah. I
Yeah,
I do wonder. I think that's one of the best things authors can do, where they realize like, hey, this is just a standalone, or hey, this
right,
is a duology. Let's not try to
right.
push the trilogy. And I don't know, once you get up to seven or more, that's just you really have to have that planned out if
You
you're really gonna do
do.
that.
Yeah, I feel like more people should do what Tamara Pierce does and just go for fours.
Yeah,
Because like three, three might not be enough, but
yeah,
four is like more than four is too many. And
yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of which, I saw you read that book.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
How
Yeah,
was
I
that?
read that one too. It was good. Um, I don't love it as much. I think I have like a bias towards the
Well, yeah,
other
you've got the
worlds
nostalgia,
that she's
sure.
built. Yeah. I think I'd pick up the other ones. Like it was a quick read.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me. I totally forgot I'd read it.
I just definitely
Um,
kept it on your Goodreads.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think her writing totally holds up for me.
Yeah.
Um, but from a story perspective, I think it's just not as like um it's not as endearing as like the strong female lead lady wanting to become a knight thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's not the feminist angle that there is. She has a weird affinity for relationships with the giant age gaps, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Yep. That's weird.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
There's not anything like romantic happening yet in this book, but there's like
But you
things where
can
I'm
see it
like,
coming.
this character is so much like that other character. Are they
Yeah.
gonna do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so that, oh, and I started reading the fourth or fifth book, I don't remember, a Murder Bot Diaries
Oh,
one.
nice.
Um, just they fucking hold up. They're so good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So anyway, I think that's everything.
Nice. For me, I ended the year by reading huge books because I'm a dummy. Well, a huge book. So I read The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, who was the author of A Thousand Summers of Jacob
Oh, yeah,
Dezoe,
yeah,
that we
yeah.
read for the podcast. He also wrote Cloud Atlas, which is probably more well known.
Oh, yes.
Um, I wanted to like this a lot more than I did. Like I just kept reading it because I was reading it. Like it was interesting in a way because it told the story of this woman's life. And like there's a supernatural, like there's a good and evil fight happening and people trying to control like people trying to like save humanity in different ways. So there's like
Okay.
a metaphysical side to it, which was interesting too. But the way it was written was it was like five parts, and each part had to do with a person that would then interact with the original character. So it starts as her as like a teenage girl, and you get 100 pages of that, and her little brother disappears, and then the next chapter is about this like college age boy who ends up going to like the Swiss Alps and meeting this woman that works in a bar there who is our original girl. So then we get like their quick relationship and a little bit of her history, what's happened in the last like 6, 7 years. And then the next one is about this guy who she knew as a child who ends up marrying her and they have a kid together. And so it's like about him, but then it's also about her. And like that's kind of how they tell the story. So it's like you want to know her whole story, but it's just a weird way of doing it. And it turns into like a post-apocalyptic thing by the end because, of course, we fuck up the earth
Of
and all this
course.
other stuff. So like I was not spite reading it, but kind of at the end, I was like, I just want to know. And it was also like 600 fucking pages
Oof.
or something. Yeah, it was chonky boy. After that, I read a book that you randomly recommended a long time ago, which was Gideon the Ninth
Oh,
by
what
Tim.
did you think?
It took me a while to get into it because the world building was fucking out there, man.
Yeah,
And like trying to remember all the different names of all the
it
different,
helped so much listening to it because I
yeah,
didn't have to like read the names.
yeah. Just trying to like remember who was who and who was from which
Yep.
house and
Yep.
history of what was going on. Definitely by the end, I loved the ending because that was something I'm always down for. It's not all fucking ribbons and bows. Uh,
Yeah.
and I know the next one is about Marrow. Harrow.
Hera.
Yeah. So I
Hera.
might pick that up at some point. I'm like, I'm not gonna run to it. It did feel like a little bit longer than it needed to be, but maybe that's just the world building side of it. I don't know. I'm getting like it's almost been 5 years of doing this, Taja, and I'm like looking at these books like, why are you so long? Give me a number on my Goodreads.
Yeah, my average page count was like 490 something last year. Yours must have been higher because you read a lot.
I didn't even look at mine, but yeah, with the Wheel of Time alone, like
Yeah.
those things, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so many fantasy chonkers. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to tell you about this, but I did try to go on my date with a book and read In a Sunburnt Country
Oh,
by
that's
Bill
fair.
Bryson.
Not your speed.
Not my speed. I gave it 80 pages. Like it interests me like the when you talk about the history of
Yeah.
Australia and some of
Yeah.
that, and like part of me was like, oh, I want to like when he's around Sydney, we only spend a day there. But I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And like that train trip he takes in the beginning, I'm like, that sounds kind of cool, actually. Like 3 days
Yeah.
on a train across Australia sounds fun. But I just found myself not reading because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pick that up.
Yeah, I didn't think that that was gonna be a winner for you.
I like that he's from New Hampshire. Is he from New Hampshire?
I think
It
New
was
England.
New England at least, but it
Yeah.
was also written in like 98 too, which was a
Yeah, it's old. Yeah.
weird to go back to. But yeah, I tried because I had it for so long. Also, for Christmas, I got like two more nonfiction books. Like people always, it's always give me nonfiction, which is interesting. And like I don't like letting books sit that people have given me. That was the thing. I
Yeah.
was like, shit, Taja gave this to me like a year ago. I got to read this. So yeah, so now I've got others in my hopper that I'm like, I'll get to you nonfiction.
Well, you're the only the second person who's told me that they've even tried to read the blind
Get
date.
on
So
it, people. If you're listening to this, take a date with your book.
you don't have to.
You have to instead. So, so immediately jumping away from that and getting back into my cozy fantasy, I just finished yesterday Skyward by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh yeah, how was
Uh,
it?
it was good. It was book one of Skyward. It's a 4 book
Nice.
series, I guess. Interesting. It's about humans are on another planet. It's in the future. And basically, this planet, we live in caves, and this planet is surrounded by a debris field that has some like turrets on it that protect us from the space aliens. But
Mm-hmm.
we also get raided by aliens. So we have like one base that is able to produce ships and the things we need, but we have to like salvage stuff that falls from the debris to make the
Oh,
ships. So it's like a constant struggle of having enough ships and
stuff.
pilots to in order to fight off
Interesting.
the aliens that are coming down because they bring life buster bombs that try to end the entire population. So it's
Wow.
about one girl who her father was a pilot and is deemed or was named a coward because he ran from battle, which she never believed because she knew him. So she's trying to become a pilot to clear his legacy and also do her part. So it was interesting. It was long. It was like 500 pages. Again, come on, Brandon. But I think it's a little YA. It definitely seems like it's a little bit younger audience. Not that he takes a step back from his writing for that, but just because we're dealing with like a teenager and, it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so this was one that I found book one and two at a thrift store. So I picked them both
Nice.
up. So I've
That
started,
never happens.
I know. And then I found out it was 4 books. I was like, fuck. But
Well, at least it was not 3 and 4.
yeah. So I just started the next book, which I think is called Starsight. I'm only like a few
Okay.
chapters in, so
Nice.
not much to report there. But yeah, I was like, let's get comfy, cozy, and back to fantasy. And oh, not speaking of which yet, well, kind of. But before we get to what's on the next podcast, we have a random recommendation. This is one that I read a long time ago, and the book is titled Bone Shaker by Sherry
Mm.
Priest. And the way it was sold to me was a steampunk zombie airship adventure set at a rollicking pace. And
Yep.
I would say it pretty much stays to that. Like, if you like any of those things, post apocalyptic steampunk zombie adventure with like a lot of gearhead type stuff, I think you'd like this. There was definitely some lulls in the plot, I remember as I was reading it, but it was only like a 200 and something page
Yeah,
book.
it was quick. I listened to that. It was narrated by Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton.
But very easy that it's fast paced. You can fly through it, and just an interesting. I really like the world that she
Yeah.
had built there
Yeah,
as
it's a
well.
series, right?
I
I thought it
don't
was a
know.
series.
I think so. I think she's written more about that. I've always that was
Yeah.
just another one that I just randomly came across as
Yeah.
like book one. And I was like, sure, and then kind of fell off from there. But if you like any of that steampunky stuff, I think that was a good representation of it. So again, the book was Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest. You could find that in places, I'm sure. And on that note, we wrap up with what is on the next podcast. And we are also, as a podcast, going back to fantasy. And this is
Yep.
one that Taja had found and learned about. The book is titled Air by Saba Tahir. Hopefully, that is close to correct. The little thing I'm pulling from the back is Air is a breathtaking, propulsive triumph, brimming with unforgettable magic, betrayal, and romance. Every chapter keeps you guessing. And this is book one of a duology. So, again, kind of knowing your pacing, we'll see how that works out. But that will be on the next podcast, which hopefully we'll be back to giving to you in 2 weeks. We'll see how that works out. We'll see when I even edit this, because I'm running out the door to go to the wedding soon. But we will get this out to you, which means we will then get another episode out to you, which means we will hopefully keep continuing giving you episodes in 2026. So that means this has been this is the end of what has been the 110th episode of the ABC Pod, the Adult Book Club with Taja and Russell. Keep reading.